Ever dream of owning a piece of Cairo? That stunning apartment overlooking the Nile, maybe a villa on the Red Sea, but then, bam, the Egyptian pound takes a dip, and suddenly that dream feels a million miles away.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster ride, this market, that's for sure.
Today, we're buckling up and diving deep into Egypt's crazy real estate scene.
We're using Belmazad's website and their blog, really digging into the why behind all the ups and downs.
And believe me, there are a lot of factors at play here. We're talking global economics, the ever-unpredictable Egyptian pound.
And let's not forget, good old human psychology.
Oh, absolutely. Remember back in, say, early 2021, everyone was holding their breath, convinced the dollar was about to hit 70, maybe even 80 Egyptian pounds. Developers were scrambling, especially those with off-plan properties.
They had to price those properties with that fear baked in.
Right, if they didn't, they'd be losing out big time.
It's fascinating, actually. That fear created this ripple effect, and we're still feeling it. Developers jacked up prices, and now, even though the Egyptian pound has stabilized...
It's around 48 to the dollar these days, right?
Right around there, yeah. And part of that is thanks to strategic moves like the Ras Al Khaimah deal.
That pumped a good deal of foreign currency into the market.
Exactly. But even with that stability, developers are hesitant to drop their prices.
So they're stuck.
In a way, yes. They don't want to scare investors by slashing prices. But buyers are hesitant to spend millions on a property that might have been significantly cheaper just a few months ago.
Talk about a stalemate.
It really is a case of who blinks first. And while developers and big investors play this high-stakes game, what's the average Egyptian citizen who wants to buy or sell supposed to do?
It's a tough market to navigate, that's for sure. And it gets even more complicated when you factor in the resale market.
Oh, absolutely.
Belmazad talks about those properties, the ones people snagged a few years back for, say, 3 or 4 million Egyptian pounds.
Right.
And now they're hoping to cash in on inflation, asking for 14, maybe even 20 million.
Yeah, and that's the big question.
Is that realistic?
Is it really, though? I mean, how do you even begin to figure out what something's actually worth in this kind of market?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, if you ask me.
People get anchored to those peak prices back when everyone was worried about the pound.
Makes sense, though. Those numbers stick with you.
But are buyers biting? Not necessarily. The market hasn't quite caught up with the stabilized pound.
So what's the solution? If I'm sitting on a property right now, how do I even know what to ask for it?
Well, the traditional methods. Looking at comparable sales, not that helpful in a market this volatile.
That's trying to hit a moving target, right?
Exactly. And, Belmazad brings up a pretty radical idea here, online real estate auctions.
Okay, now that's interesting. I'll admit, I'm intrigued. How do auctions bring order to all of this?
Think about it. In a traditional sale, you're basing your asking price on what? Your best guess, your agent's advice, whatever data you can scrape up.
Right, but with an auction.
With an auction, the market decides.
That's pretty powerful when you think about it.
You've got multiple verified buyers, all bidding in real time.
So it cuts through all the guesswork and uncertainty.
Exactly. And there's no more agonizing over whether you've priced yourself out of the market or left money on the table.
And I bet that's reassuring for buyers, too.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone knows they're getting a fair deal based on actual demand.
But what about trust? I mean, real estate has always been a relationship-based business.
That's a valid concern, especially in a market like this. And that's where Belmazad's partnership with Banque Misr comes in. They offer escrow services, which...
Hold on. Can we unpack that a bit?
Yeah.
What exactly is escrow in this context? I feel like I hear the term thrown around a lot.
Sure. Think of it as a safety net for both sides. Instead of money changing hands directly, it's held by a neutral third party in this case, Banque Misr.
So they're like the referee.
Exactly. They hold the funds until all the conditions of the sale are met. The seller knows they'll get paid. The buyer knows the seller can't disappear with the money.
Okay, that makes sense. It's all about building trust, especially in a market where that can be hard to come by. So we've got this volatile market, this need for transparency, this desire for security. And Belmazad comes in with this online auction platform backed by a major bank and tops it off with escrow services. Sounds like a pretty compelling solution. But let's get into the details. How does the Belmazad auction process actually work?
Well, it's actually a pretty fascinating system.
So let's say I'm ready to dive into this world of online real estate auctions. I'm on Belmazad's website. What do I do first?
Well, first things first, you're going to need to make an account.
Okay, makes sense.
And it's not just, typing in a username and password. They've got to verify who you are.
Right. security and all that.
Exactly. And you'll put down a security deposit, too, just to show you're serious.
So it's not just anyone who can jump into these auctions. I
Yeah.
kind of like that. Keeps things above board.
It's all about building that trust right from the start. So then once you're in, you can start browsing the properties.
So what am I looking at here? Just a massive list of every property in Egypt.
More like a curated selection.
Okay, I like that.
They want to make sure you're seeing quality listings. You'll find detailed descriptions, professional pictures. Some even have virtual tours.
So you can really get a feel for the place.
Exactly. It's about transparency, making sure you have all the info before you even think about bidding.
All right, I found it. That Cairo apartment I was talking about, overlooking the Nile. Walk me through this. How do I actually bid?
Well, forget the whole auctioneer with a gavel thing.
No yelling out numbers.
No, Belmazad uses an electronic bidding system. Very straightforward.
Gotcha.
You'll see the current highest bid, how much you need to increase it by.
And probably a timer counting down, right?
Oh, absolutely, adding to that sense of urgency.
I bet.
And because you've got these pre-vetted buyers all bidding at the same time, the price is being driven by genuine demand.
Not just speculation.
Right. That's how you get a real market value, even with all the ups and downs we've been talking about.
I bet sellers love that, knowing they're actually getting what their property's worth.
For sure.
Yeah.
And don't forget, that whole process is backed by Banque Misr with the escrow service, so everything is secure.
The money's protected until the deal is done.
Exactly. No surprises, no shady business, just a smooth, transparent transaction.
It sounds like Belmazad takes a lot of the stress out of it, but it's not just about the auction itself, is it?
Right. They offer a lot more than that.
Like what?
Well, like for sellers, they'll do pre-auction consultations, help them figure out a good starting bid, even come up with the strategy to attract buyers.
Wow, so they're really involved in the whole process.
They're more like partners than just a platform.
I like that.
And once the auction's over, they're still there to help with all the paperwork, the financial stuff, all of it.
So you're not just thrown to the wolves once the hammer falls.
Not at all.
It's interesting, this whole approach.
Yeah.
And having Banque Misr on board, that's huge.
It really is. I mean, it gives Belmazad a level of credibility that's hard to beat.
Not to mention access to some pretty prime properties, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. But beyond even that, what I find really impressive is their commitment to transparency.
Yeah, they talk a lot about that on their website.
It's not just talk either. They actually publish market trend analysis, give buyers and sellers real data to work with.
That's what I love about this show, really digging into these innovative solutions, the ones that are shaking things up.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, here's something to think about. Could this be the future of real estate? Not just in Egypt, but globally. And if so, what happens to traditional brokers and agents? Something to ponder. This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of Egyptian real estate. Thanks for exploring with us.